Hey everybody, welcome to Objectively Put, and today we're going to be covering Cory Booker. Now, about 2 weeks ago, he announced he was running for president for the year 2020. He's a senator from New Jersey, and we're going to be going over some of the good and bad about him. Um, First, a quick opinion on him. He is he's the cookie cutter politician. I mean, pretty corny, a lot of promises, a lot of platitudes, a lot of empty words. And I don't mean empty words as in he doesn't mean anything he's saying, but it's so open to interpretation that it doesn't provide any policy substance. But enough of that. We can go back a little bit with Cory Booker. When he was running for mayor, he went on a 10-day hunger strike to highlight the housing issue. It's a pretty good thing, and that's a pretty great thing to great way to campaign when you're running for something, especially a position like mayor. He apparently ran in a burning building to save a neighbor. Sounds great. I mean, and it is good to save. It's great saving a neighbor. I'm not sure the magnitude of that fire, so it could have been big, it could have been small. But regardless, if he saved somebody's life, that's great. He went on the food. He went on food stamps to show how hard that life could be. Again, another pretty good thing. Showing by example. No, he doesn't have to live on food stamps for life, for however long. But that's a good example um, to set. Now, he has a 2020 campaign platform. He wants to do something called a baby bonds program. That's when every child that's born gets a bond, and by the time they are of age to receive that bond or to cash it, it's worth a lot more than when they were born. Now, he says he wants to do this to help combat income, wealth inequality, but to my understanding, he wants to make the baby bonds program universal, so it doesn't really do that because everybody gets it. So that doesn't really address income, wealth inequality when everybody gets it. But that's besides the point. In this platform was criminal justice reform, antitrust action, a jobs guarantee pilot program. So it's not a jobs program in the way that that's that's what it's going to be from here on out. It's a pilot program. I guess just a way of testing the waters to see what a jobs guarantee program would look like. He's for housing tax credits for renters. That's a good thing. Green New Deal. He supports the Green New Deal. He supports Medicare for all, but not in favor of eliminating private insurance. People who a little more politically astute, I think they understand that it's a big problem. Um, for those of you who don't understand how that would be a problem, if you don't eliminate private insurance, you keep the profit motive there, and if the profit motive is there, the private insurance can do a lot of backhanded deals with the government to help kind of starve out what Medicare for all would be to everybody else who didn't have private insurance. So there's a lot of you got to get the private insurance out so the healthcare system can be wiped clean. Then if you want to bring it back in as supplemental care, then that's another story. But to keep them in play with all the leverage they have over the government now is problematic and wouldn't work out well for a Medicare for all program. Now, he's running his campaign on common pain and common purpose. We talked about this before, and I hate those things. Now, forget the subjective idea behind those words and look at our current political climate. Now, I just mentioned his campaign platform, but none of that stuff was in his campaign ad. Common purpose and pain would be a great message for a country whose government isn't bought by the ones causing the pain. It's a joke. That's like someone telling us to unite behind clean air while that person has 100 smokestacks pumping crazy amounts of pollutants from the back of his or her house. The problem is that our government is bought. Everything that happens because of that is just a byproduct of the corruption. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get to his record. He's been good on civil rights, LGBTQ issues, good for criminal justice reform, he's for family paid medical leave. He says he's for Medicare for all. Wasn't for it 2 years ago at all. So those are the good things. I wish there were more, but that's pretty much it. So what you get from any corporate Democrat, pretty good on the social issues, but when you get to the things that can fundamentally change how our society functions, you ain't getting what you want. Now, onto the bad. He's always searching for the middle ground with Republicans and identifies as a centrist. Why is that a problem? Well, I'll tell you why. Because both political parties shift together. So right now we have a right wing, pretty much right wing government that's pretty much just off the cliff, and the Democrats have to shift with that. Both parties shift together. A good example of this is over in the UK. They have a parliamentary system, and they have right wing officials and they have left wing officials, and now they have things instituted like they have universal health care there. The country has shifted left on that issue. So even the right wing politicians in the UK wouldn't dream of taking away universal health care because the country is already left on that issue. The politicians are left on that issue, and that's just the way it is. They're not taking it away. Over here, um, we have politicians that take money from the fossil fuel industry, which is why we have such a hard time doing things combating climate change. And with both parties taking money from the fossil fuel industry, you won't get a left wing agenda. That's what I mean by both parties shifting together, both paid for by the same people. He supported lowering corporate taxes in 2014. Not sure where he stands on that now, but he hasn't talked about it. Now, when Obama went after private equity firms, Cory Booker said his attacks were nauseating. Now, for those that don't know what private equity firms do, is what they do is they take big businesses that are in financial trouble, they bail them out, create a new debt to the company, and the company has to pay that debt off. Now, what was happening was the interest was too high or kept climbing to the point where the companies couldn't survive. And they couldn't survive without being in perpetual debt to the equity firm. Prime example was Toys R Us. So the firms make their money and the company still eventually tanks. Obama only wanted to reel them in so there would be fewer instances of that. Cory Booker called that nauseating. To put that in perspective, private equity firms are like what a normal person is when confronting a payday loan. Payday loans get you out of a situation, but the debt you accrue from the payday loan eventually will take you out again. So it's important to reel private equity firms in, because on paper, yeah, it could be a great thing, but in practice, we've seen what they do and how damaging they can be. Cory Booker takes a lot of money from Wall Street. Of all the Democrats, I believe of all the Democratic senators, he takes the most amount of money from Wall Street. I'm sorry, not Wall Street. I want to correct that. He takes the biggest amount of money from Big Pharma. Big distinction, still bad. Only 12% of his campaign contributions come from small donors, 68% from large donors. And I talked about this before, this thing called big money bundling, where they don't have the corporations donate, but they have individuals from the corporations come and attend a dinner, and these individuals pay the maximum amount, which is $2,700. And what they get is access, and in so many ways, they do the bidding for the corporation they're there to represent. 10% is money from corporate PACs. He was one of the ones who said he would be rejecting corporate PAC money. That's a pretty good thing. But like I said, there are ways around it, which is like the big money bungling, and that's a problem. I think everyone remembers this one. He helped kill Bernie's bill that would allow for the importation of prescription drugs from Canada. Um, a while ago, politicians would vote down things, good things, and nobody would notice it. But with, the recent political awakening of a lot of people, we've been on it. And when Cory Booker voted against this bill, the internet caught fire. I mean, trashing him. It was glorious. I loved it. Trashed him because, what are you doing?